The rain didn't just fall. It attacked. It slammed into the street like the sky had finally lost its patience with the world below. Tires hissed through puddles. Horns blared in anger. A bus roared past, throwing a wave of brown water across the sidewalk where a small black girl stood frozen, her shoes soaked, her fingers clutching a paper bag to her chest like it was the last warm thing left in a cold city. Her name was Amara. She was 9 years old, and inside that bag was her dinner, a sandwich wrapped in thin paper, a bruised apple with a soft spot she planned to eat last. It was all she had for the night. She could have gone home. She should have gone home. But something across the street stopped her. A boy knelt in the mud near a broken fire hydrant, his knees pressed into the wet concrete, like he didn't care if he ever stood back up. He was thin, too thin. His jacket was 2 sizes too big, sleeves covering most of his hands. His hair was plastered to his forehead by rain and sweat. His head was down, like he was trying to disappear into the ground. People passed him like he was a crack in the sidewalk. A woman pulled her purse closer. A man stepped around him without slowing down. A group of teenagers laughed as they splashed past, not even looking. The city kept moving. The boy stayed still. Amara felt something twist inside her chest. Not loud, not dramatic, just a small, quiet pull. She took a step, then another. Each one felt heavier than the last. Her shoes squelched in the water. Her heart beat so hard she could hear in her ears. She didn't know why she was walking toward him. She only knew she couldn't walk away. When she stopped in front of him, he didn't look up. He stared at the mud like it was the only thing that would listen. Amara cleared her throat. The sound came out small. She swallowed and lifted the paper bag with both hands, holding out in front of her like an offering. The boy noticed the shadow first, then the bag, slowly, like he was afraid it might vanish. He looked up. His eyes were wide, dark, empty, and full at the same time. For a second, neither of them moved. The rain filled the silence. The world rushed past behind them, but in that small space between their breaths, everything else faded. Is that for me?" he asked. His voice cracked on the last word. Amara nodded. She didn't trust her voice. He hesitated. His hands hovered in the air, unsure if he was allowed to touch something good. Then he took the bag. His fingers brushed hers, cold and shaking. He opened it right there. The smell of bread hit him, and his face changed. His shoulders dropped. His eyes softened. He took a bite, like he was afraid someone might take it away. "Why?" he asked through a mouthful. "Why are you helping me?" Amara shrugged, like it was the simplest thing in the world. "Because you're hungry." He stared at her, really stared, like he was trying to understand something bigger than the rain, bigger than the street, bigger than the whole city. Nobody had ever said something like that to him before. Tears mixed with the rain on his cheeks, and he didn't even bother to wipe them away. He just kept eating, slower now, like he wanted to make the moment last. "My name is Leo," he said. "I'm Amara," she replied. They stood there, 2 kids in a loud, uncaring world, sharing a quiet moment that felt like it didn't belong to anyone else. Leo looked down at the half-eaten sandwich in his hands. Then he looked back up at her. His jaw tightened, like he was making a promise to himself before he ever said it out loud. "One day," he said, his voice low but steady, "I won't be like this." Amara tilted her head. "Like what?" "Like someone people walk past," he said. "Like someone nobody sees." She didn't know what to say, so she just listened. "I'm gonna be rich," he continued, the words coming faster now, like they were chasing each other out of his chest. "I'm gonna have a big house, and a car, and I won't be cold anymore. I won't be hungry anymore." Amara smiled, soft and unsure. "Okay." He shook his head. "No, I mean it." Then he said it, the thing that made the air around them change. "And when I am," he said, "I'll come back. I'll find you, and I'll marry you." Amara laughed, not because it was funny, because it was too big, too bold, too bright for a gray, rainy day like this. "You don't even know my last name," she teased. "I'll find you," he repeated, like that part didn't matter. The rain slowed, just a little, like even the sky was leaning in to listen. A bus pulled up behind Amara, brakes squealing. The doors opened with a hiss. Her ride home. Her mother would be waiting, wondering where she was. "I have to go," Amara said. Leo nodded, but his eyes didn't leave her face. She took a step back, then another. "Don't forget me," he said. She held up a finger, pointing at him. "Don't forget me first." He pressed his hand to his chest. "I won't." The bus doors closed between them. The engine roared. As it pulled away, Amara watched him through the foggy window. He stood there in the rain, small and still, holding an empty paper bag like it was something precious. The city swallowed him up as the bus turned the corner. Years would pass. Streets would change. Buildings would rise and fall. People would grow up and grow apart. But somewhere in the noise of the world, a promise made in the rain would stay alive, quiet, waiting. And neither of them knew it yet, but that moment, wet shoes, a simple sandwich, and a brave, impossible dream, had already started to bend their lives toward each other in ways neither could see. The bus rolled on into the night, carrying Amara home, carrying Leo's words in her chest like a small, flickering light. "I'll come back," he had said. The rain fell again, harder now, like the sky was daring fate to keep that promise. The rain didn't come back. It turned into dust, into heat that clung to skin, into long days that felt like they stretched forever. The streets stayed cracked. The walls stayed stained. The looks people gave stayed sharp and quick, like they were cutting space around her without ever touching her. Amara grew up in that space. She grew into a young woman with tired eyes and a soft smile she used like armor. Every morning before the sun fully woke up, she tied her hair back, pulled on a faded apron, and walked to the small roadside cafe that smelled like burned coffee and old grease. The sign outside flickered, one letter always going out, like it couldn't decide if it wanted to stay alive. Inside, the bell over the door rang every time someone walked in. Ding, ding, ding. Amara moved between tables with a tray balanced on one hand and a pen tucked behind her ear. She learned to dodge elbows, step around spilled drinks, and smile through comments that stuck in her chest longer than she wanted to admit. "Hey girl, Mississippi, you." That's what they called her. Not Amara. Not her name printed in black letters on the tag pinned to her chest. Just words that slid past her like she wasn't really there. She brought plates of food to men who talked over her. Coffee to women who barely looked up. Change to customers who didn't bother to say thank you. "Have a nice day," she said again and again. Most days, nobody answered. When the lunch rush ended, the cafe fell into a tired quiet, the kind that buzzed in your ears. The cook in the back, a big man with flour always on his hands, leaned against the counter and sighed like he had just finished carrying something heavy. Amara wiped down tables, slow now, let her thoughts wander. That's when the memory always came back. The rain, the mud, the boy with the shaking hands. She could still see his face when he took that first bite of the sandwich. The way his shoulders dropped. The way his eyes filled. "You thinking about him again?" the cook asked one afternoon, not even looking up from the grill. Amara smiled small. "Maybe." She told the story like she always did. The poor boy. The rain. The promise to come back rich. The words he said like they were carved in stone instead of spoken in a storm. The cook chuckled, shaking his head. That boy had big dreams. "Yeah," she said, "too big for a day like that." They both laughed, not because it was funny, but because believing in it felt like standing on the edge of something you could fall off. At night, Amara walked home alone. The streetlights buzzed overhead. Billboards glowed with pictures of shiny cars and perfect smiles. People who looked like they lived in a different world. She walked past them with her hands in her pockets, her apron folded under her arm, wondering where Leo was now, if he had found food, if he had found warmth, if he had found a way out. Sometimes she whispered his name to the empty street, just to hear out loud. "Leo." The sound always faded before it went anywhere. Far away, in a city that looked like it was made of glass and light, a young man stood on a balcony that rose above the clouds. His suit fit him like it had been made just for him. His watch shined every time he moved his wrist. Below him, cars looked like toys. People looked like dots, boardrooms, contracts, applause. That was his life now. Meetings where everyone waited for him to speak. Rooms where his name opened doors before he ever touched the handle. They called him Mr. Cole now. But late at night, when the city lights dimmed and the noise finally fell away, he took off the suit and sat alone in a quiet apartment that felt too big for one person. That's when the memory came back. The rain, the girl, the paper bag. He remembered the way her hands held out that sandwich like it was something holy. The way she didn't ask him anything. Not his name, not his story, not his past. Just gave. He stood in front of a mirror once, looking at the man he had become. The sharp haircut, the calm eyes, the power in his posture. "Don't forget me," he whispered his own reflection. He went to meetings where people praised him, to events where cameras flashed, to dinners where waiters brought him food on silver trays. And every time, he thought about a cracked sidewalk and a girl who gave away her only meal. One evening, in the middle of a long dinner with people talking about money like it was air, Leo stood up without saying a word. He walked out. He got into the back of a black car. The door closed with a soft, final sound. "Where to, sir?" the driver asked. Leo looked out the window at the city that had given him everything. Power, respect, a name people listened to. Then he said, "Turn back." The driver frowned in the mirror. Back where? Leo's jaw tightened. His chest felt heavy, like it did on that rainy day years ago. "Back to where I started," he said. The car pulled away from the bright lights, away from the tall buildings, away from the world that knew him as Mr. Cole. Miles passed. Streets changed. The glass towers turned into brick walls. The clean sidewalks turned into cracked concrete. Leo leaned forward, his hands clasped together, his heart beating faster with every turn. Meanwhile, Amara closed the cafe for the night. She flipped the sign to close and counted the tips in her hand. It wasn't much. It never was. She stepped outside, the air cool against her skin, and started her walk home. She didn't see the black car turning onto the street. She didn't hear the soft hum of its engine. She just walked under the flickering streetlights, thinking about a boy who promised the impossible. The car slowed. Leo looked out the window and saw her. The same walk, the same steady steps, the same quiet strength in the way she held herself. His breath caught in his throat. The driver stopped the car. Leo's hand hovered over the door handle. Years of power, years of success, years of becoming someone else. And now this moment. He took a breath. Outside, Amara kept walking, unaware that a promise made in the rain was about to step back into her world. The cafe bell chimed like it always did. A small, tired sound. Amara didn't look up. She was wiping down a table, her rag moving in slow circles, her mind somewhere far away. Another customer, another order, another moment in a day that felt like every other day she had ever lived. Then the room changed. It wasn't silent. Not really. The grill still sizzled in the back. A spoon still clinked against a cup. But something heavy dropped into the air, like a shadow falling over everything at once. Amara felt it before she saw it. A tightness in her chest. A pause in the rhythm of her breath. She looked up. A man stood in the doorway. He didn't look lost. He didn't look rushed. He looked like he belonged everywhere he stood. His suit was dark and clean, pressed sharp like it could cut through the noise of the room. His shoes shined under the cafe's dull lights. He didn't step onto the floor. He claimed it. People noticed. They always did when someone like him walked into a place like this. Forks stopped midair. Conversations dropped into whispers. "Who is that?" someone murmured. "He looks important," another said. "Must be rich," a voice added, soft and curious. The man didn't look at the menu on the wall. He didn't look at the tables. His eyes moved slow, steady, scanning faces. Left, right, past a family in the corner, past two men arguing over a bill, past the cook peeking through the window from the back. Then his eyes stopped. On her. Amara felt like a hand closing around her heart. The room seemed to tilt just a little. Her fingers tightened around the rag in her hand. For a second, She thought maybe she had done something wrong. Maybe he was here to complain. Maybe this was another moment where she would have to smile and apologize for something she didn't cause. The man took a step forward, then another. Each step was slow, careful, like he was walking through something fragile. Amara stepped back without meaning to. Her shoulder brushed against the counter. Her pulse beat loud in her ears. He stopped a few feet away from her. Up close, his face was calm, but his eyes weren't. They held something old, something deep, something that didn't belong in a clean suit and a polished life. "Do you remember the rain?" he asked. His voice was soft, almost gentle, but the words hit her like thunder. The cafe disappeared. The walls faded. The lights blurred. She saw water pouring from the sky. She saw mud on the sidewalk. She saw a boy on his knees, shaking, holding a paper bag like it was the only good thing left in the world. Her hand started to shake. She dropped the rag. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out at first. Her throat felt tight, like all the years between that day and this moment were stuck there at once. Then she whispered, "You came back." The man nodded. "I told you I would," he said. For a second, nobody else in the cafe mattered. Not the whispers, not the stares, not the cook leaning forward in the back. Just them. Two people standing on opposite sides of a promise that had waited years to be kept. Amara took a step closer, like she wasn't sure he was real. Her eyes searched his face, looking for the boy she remembered. The thin cheeks, the tired eyes, the hunger. She saw him there, beneath the suit, beneath the power. "Leo?" she asked. He smiled. Not wide, not loud, just enough. "Yeah," he said. "It's me." A breath left her chest that she didn't know she had been holding for years. Around them, the cafe watched. They didn't know what they were seeing. They didn't know they were standing inside a moment that started on a rainy sidewalk long before any of them had ever walked through this door. A man at the counter leaned closer to his friend. "You know him," he whispered. Amara didn't answer. She couldn't. Her eyes were still locked on Leo. "What are you doing here?" she finally asked. Leo glanced around the small cafe. The chip tables, the flickering light, the smell of coffee and grease. A place that felt like a world away from the life he lived now. "I came back," he said, "like I said I would." Her lips trembled. You're different." He let out a small breath. "So are you." A woman at a nearby table scoffed under her breath. "Of course he's different," she muttered. "Look at him." Leo heard it. He turned his head just a little. The woman went quiet. He looked back at Amara. "I never forgot," he said. "Not the rain. Not the sandwich. Not you." Amara felt her eyes burn. She blinked hard, trying to hold it in, trying to stay standing. "People forget things like that," she said. "Life gets loud." He nodded. "It did. But every time it got loud, I remembered a girl who gave me everything she had without asking for anything back." The cook in the back cleared his throat. He stepped closer to the counter, pretending to wipe it down, but really just watching. "Who is this guy?" he whispered to Amara when Leo looked away for a second. She shook her head, still stunned. He's the boy I told you about." The cook's eyes widened. Leo turned back to her. "You told people about me?" She laughed, a small, broken sound. "Sometimes." The cafe bell chimed again as another customer walked in. Nobody looked. All eyes were still on them. Leo reached into his pocket, then stopped. His hand hovered there for a moment, like he was about to pull out something important. Then he pulled it back out. "Empty." "I didn't come with anything," he said. "No speech. No gift." Amara shook her head. "You came," she said. That's enough." Outside, a car drove past, splashing water from a puddle against the window. The sound echoed like a memory. Leo glanced at the door, then back at her. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Somewhere quieter?" Amara looked around the cafe. The stares, the whispers, the air thick with questions. She nodded. Leo turned toward the door. He opened it and held it for her. Amara hesitated. She took one last look at the place that had been her whole world for years. Then she stepped outside. The air hit her face, cool and sharp. The streetlights buzzed overhead. The city hummed around them, unaware of the moment it was carrying. Leo stood beside her on the sidewalk, not as a rich man and a cafe worker, but as two kids who had once stood in the rain with nothing but a sandwich and a dream between them. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted quietly. Amara looked at him. "Neither do I." They stood there, side by side, the space between them filled with years, questions, and a promise that had finally found its way back home. Inside the cafe, the cook watched through the window, his arms crossed, his face soft. Outside, the city kept moving. And somewhere in the noise of it all, a new chapter was about to begin. He didn't kneel. He didn't pull out a ring. He didn't raise his voice. He did something that felt louder than all of that. He turned back toward the cafe, toward the people who had been whispering, staring, judging, wondering who he was and why he cared about a woman in an apron. And he said, clear and steady, "This woman saved my life before I ever had one." The words didn't echo. They didn't need to. They landed. Silence fell across the room, but it wasn't the kind that makes people uncomfortable. It was the kind that makes people listen. The grill in the back went quiet. A cup stopped halfway to someone's lips. Even the bell over the door seemed to hold its breath. Amara felt every eye turned toward her. She felt it like a wave, but this time it didn't push her down. It lifted her up. The stairs weren't sharp. They weren't curious. They were soft, respectful, human. Leo turned back to her. He reached out and took her hand. Not fast, not strong, just enough to let her know he was there. "I became rich in money," he said, "but I became rich in heart because of you." Amara's breath caught. Her chest tightened. The years pressed against her all at once. The long shifts, the quiet walks home, the night she told a story about a boy in the rain and laughed so she wouldn't cry. Her eyes filled. The tears came before she could stop them. They rolled down her cheeks, warm and heavy, not from sadness, from release, from something inside her finally letting go. She tried to speak. Her voice broke. "I didn't do anything special," she whispered. Leo shook his head. "You did everything," he said. "You saw me when nobody else did." A woman near the window wiped at her eyes. A man at the counter cleared his throat, looking down at his coffee like he didn't want anyone to see his face. Then someone started to clap. It was slow at first. One person. Then another. The sound spread across the cafe, soft and steady, like a heartbeat finding its rhythm. Hands came together. People stood. Some smiled. Some cried. Some just nodded, like they understood something they hadn't before. In the back, the cook stepped forward, his hands still white with flour. He leaned against the counter, his eyes on Amara. He gave her a small nod, like he had been waiting for this moment all along. Amara looked around the room, this place that had been her whole world for so long. The chip tables, the flickering light, the people who had walked past her 1,000 times without seeing her. And now they were seeing her. Leo squeezed her hand. "Come on," he said softly. They walked toward the door together. The clapping followed them. The bell chimed as Leo opened the door for her, the same way he had done just minutes before. Outside, the air felt different. Cooler, lighter. The streetlights cast long shadows across the sidewalk. Cars passed, their headlights sweeping over them like quick flashes of another world. They stopped just outside the cafe. Amara leaned against the brick wall, her legs feeling weak. Leo stood in front of her, unsure for the first time since he had walked in. "I didn't plan any of that," he admitted. I didn't want them to think I was better than you." Amara let out a small laugh, shaking her head. "You don't have to protect me." "I know," he said, "but I wanted to stand with you." They stood there, close but not touching, the space between them filled with everything they hadn't said yet. A man walking past slowed down. He looked at Leo, then at Amara. Then he smiled. "Good on you," he said, before continuing down the street. Amara watched him go, surprised at how something so small could feel so big. Leo looked down at the sidewalk. "I used to sit on a curb like this," he said, wondering if I would ever be more than what people saw. She followed his gaze. And now, people see too much, he replied. The suit, the car, the name. He looked back up at her. They forget I was ever that boy in the rain. Amara reached out this time. She took his hand. I didn't forget, she said. They walked, not to a fancy car, not to a glowing building, just down the street, side by side, two people moving at the same pace for the first time in years. They passed the bus stop, where Amara used to stand after her shifts, the corner where Leo's car was parked, dark and waiting. Is that yours? She asked. He nodded. Yeah. She stopped, looked at it, then back at him. You don't have to drive me anywhere. He smiled. I know. I just wanted you to see how far that promise took me. She nodded slowly. It took you far. And it brought me back, he said. They stood there, the car between them and the pass, the street stretching ahead like something new. A breeze moved through the trees. Leaves rustled. The city hummed. Leo took a breath. I don't know what this is, he said. I don't know where it goes. Amara thought about the girl she used to be, standing in the rain, holding a paper bag, not knowing what would come next. I don't either, she said, but I know how it started. He smiled. They didn't kiss. They didn't make a big promise. They just stood there, holding hands, letting the moment be what it was. Across the street, someone watched from the cafe window. The cook. He wiped the counter with slow, careful moves. He looked at the empty space where Amara used to stand, then back at the two figures under the streetlight. He nodded to himself. The city kept moving around them. People hurried past. Cars honked. Somewhere, music played from an open window. But in that small space, time slowed. Leo looked at Amara. Thank you, he said, for that day, for this one, for not walking away. She squeezed his hand. Thank you for coming back. They turned and walked toward the car, toward whatever waited next, not as a rich man and a poor girl, not as a promise and a memory, but as two people who had found each other again in a world that tried to keep them apart. And if you had been there, standing on that sidewalk, watching them disappear into the glow of the streetlights, you might have felt it too. That quiet truth in the air, that simple, steady lesson the world keeps forgetting and relearning. Power isn't what you hold in your hands. It's what you hold in your heart. You don't become powerful by how high you rise. You become powerful by how deeply you remember who lifted you when you were on the ground.